Woohoo! All right, we are live. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome back to the Hustle Science Experiment. Today, I'm excited because I've got Alaric Overbey. He is the founder of Green Side Up, a vertical farming company here in Vegas. Alaric, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, dude. So you have quite the background. I mean, hydroponics is definitely all the rage, and you've been doing this for the last 8 years, and you're making a lot of headway in the historic West Side. So kudos to you for sticking through and working really hard in an industry that is hard. But for everybody that's watching and not as familiar with you, could you just share a quick background of who you are and how you've come to be in this space?
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me on here. Alaric Overbey. I'm originally from California. My background has been primarily in IT, so data center optimization, cloud, and backup recovery. In 2015, I was working for a company, and I found myself in um, Dallas, Texas. And I also had an opportunity while I was in Dallas to visit an area called South Dallas and a particular area called Bonton. And so that was my first real experience with a food desert. So as I started doing some research on food deserts, um, I seen that vertical farming could be a solution for that. And so since then, I've kind of been working in that space around the country in different cities, addressing and looking at how food deserts can be solved by using vertical farming technology.
Awesome, awesome. And you've got some vertical farms right behind you.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
That's
So I
great.
have two different types of systems that you see behind me. One is a tower garden system. The other one is called a radix system.
Erratic system.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
cool. What's the
radix
main difference?
So the biggest difference that you see is the radix system is what they call ebb and flow, and so this is more of traditional hydroponics,
Yeah.
um, compared to the tower systems that you see over here, which are considered vertical aeroponics, and so it's more of a drip system where inside of an oxygenated chamber allows the roots to get a lot more oxygen to be able to absorb nutrients, which basically increases the amount of time that it takes. It decreases the amount of time it takes for a plant to grow.
That's
If you
awesome.
kind of if you kind of think about a head of lettuce taking about 55 days and 30 gallons of water, we're able to do it here with 3 gallons of water in 21 days.
Legendary. Legendary. So obviously that's a powerful tool. So our business lesson today, we've talked a lot on this podcast about the importance of partnerships and collaboration and coalition building and that sort of stuff. But it's especially important to your industry because of cooperative farming. All of the food in America is grown as a result of intricate partnerships between farmers, buyers, the government, etc. So I'd love to yield the floor to you, Alaric, if you can give us like a one-on-one crash course on what cooperative farming is and why it's so important as a solution to the food desert that is the historic West Side.
So cooperative farming is really kind of evaluating your urban landscape and looking at who's growing what and what type of food is available that's grown at home. And then what it is looking at how do you start to cooperate in a way where farmers are sharing, different types of resources when it comes to getting the product to the market. It's very challenging for an individual farmer in this space to do everything by themselves. And so having partners that are growing different things in order to supply the large demand is essential for the growth of that industry, no matter where it's at. Here in Las Vegas is a different kind of animal because there's no real history of agriculture here when it comes to growing food for humans. They have agriculture for growing food for animals, but when it comes to growing food for humans, um, that cooperative model hasn't really taken hold, which is where our primary focus is really kind of looking at how you start to develop a hub that everybody's able to feed into to be able to share a lot of the resources necessary for the industry.
Absolutely. And so, what does that look like? I mean, are you finding yourself? I mean, in your own company, maybe let's start there. If you could give us a quick introduction of Green Side Up and what you're doing, and then we can kind of start talking about how you're cooperating with other organizations in town to build up more farming.
So Green Side Up is primarily a vertical farming and related technologies company. So we're not focused on any particular type of system when it comes to vertical farming, but because we think that there's such a gap in between the knowledge and the physical task of vertical farming, in order for it to take hold, that we want to kind of bridge that gap between those two different pieces. And so by doing that, one of the things we do outside of just growing produce is that we actually have training mechanisms and workforce development, because as this industry grows, it has to, workforce has to grow alongside of it in order to be able to support it. And that's typically kind of the imbalance when you talk about new technologies and new industries. And so where we're located at is primarily inside of a STEM center. And then we run different cohorts when it comes to training. And then we run different types of workforce development programs all within inside of that. And the goal with this is to actually create food hubs inside of food deserts. And what this does is help reverse engineer what's happening inside of a food desert by now making these communities bioproductive. And so now they're producing something that other people want.
Oh, I love that. So going from a food desert to almost like a community export.
Exactly.
That's great. And so your specialty really is getting a hold of whatever the latest tech is in the hydroponic space, understanding it, learning it, implementing it for yourself, and then teaching other people how to implement it, training them, and then and then helping others community facilities, stores, grocery stores, essentially set up their own vertical farm plus supply them with the staff. Is that essentially the
Absolutely.
business model?
Absolutely.
Awesome. And so on the cooperative side, it seems like you probably work with a ton of partners, right? You have the folks that supply you the units, you have the folks that supply you the technology, which I'd love for you to share about, but also it's all of these community partners that are, kind of helping, right? So can you talk about how, um, what are some of the efforts that you're putting into motion in this community to really get cooperative farming become something that's realized? Because you are, and don't share anything you can't talk about yet that isn't like official, but anything you can talk about, please, drop it in.
Okay. Um, so for the most part, when it comes to the education piece, that's kind of like the key focus. And so developing university partnerships with when it comes to what they need and what they're looking for in regards to how they relate to the community, is that they're already looking for partners in the community that's working inside of some of these spaces. And so it's really a transfer of information and transfer of knowledge when
Mhm.
it comes to the university level, as far as on education. So that's one of our key things, is looking at how do you start to get these inside of the universities, how you start to get these inside of elementary schools and in high schools, and then how that kind of works into how the industry is actually growing, because at some point in time, you can go to school for this. And
Yeah.
then really bridging and understanding uh, all the different pieces that go into this type of agriculture that most people don't necessarily relate to. So engineering. So we're working with engineering department with UNLV, and so with them, our internship program gives us computer engineers, mechanical engineers, software engineers, but most people wouldn't necessarily see how that relates to vertical farming, or what's now more popularly known as controlled environment agriculture. So this is more of controlled environment agriculture, which encompasses all the ponics, so hydroponic, aeroponics, aquaponics, and so on. And so all of those things come into monitoring the plants, looking at the health of the plants, what's the nutrient content of the plants, because then that's all reflective when we work with other partners, where we sit on a couple of boards for the maternity health for the historic West Side, for example, which is all about food security and getting healthy food to the people who actually have a need for it.
Yeah.
And so by having the data that we're able to collect from the universities, now we can basically show how that data coming from the things that we are growing, and how that can now help the people inside that community having access to healthier food. And then you can really kind of start to track that. You can start
Mhm.
to look at, okay, on this day they weren't that healthy because they didn't have access. But over time, by introducing more healthy food into, we're just simply giving them more access to it on a more regular basis, increases their choices. And so how that
Absolutely.
starts to infect their bodies and their health and their mental health over a certain period of time. And so
Yeah.
that's really what it's about, as far as looking at how do we utilize. It's not just about growing or just about putting out a store, but it's like, what are the end results? Looking at what's the root of the problem, which is, the people and the health and what they're being fed. Is essentially the same thing as I look at some of these plants and be like, okay, what's the problem with my plants? If it's, It's not as green as it needs to be. It has spots and stuff like that. Well, then there's a problem with it's being fed.
Yeah.
So at the root level.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
the
cool.
same concept when it comes to making sure that the plants are healthy apply to the same concept when it talks about making sure that the community is healthy, making sure that the individual is healthy. It's pretty much the same concept.
Yep. Hey, Alaric, I think that's super helpful. You know, what I got out of that is there's a model for social impact that you can make on communities through vertical farming. And if
Absolutely.
you could create a playbook, or if you can, get to the point where you have evidence. I know you've been doing this for a while, but it takes a long time to affect change and measure that, right? But you've been keeping at it, and so once you could get to that point where you can demonstrate that data of, hey, we put a grocery store on this corner of the neighborhood, and it has a vertical farm built into it, and because of that, now all of the seniors that live in that area are doing better. Their kids are doing better. People are getting healthier. You have that data that can be really powerful for helping you scale to other cities, because that's an amazing story. And actually, that was one of the things that Lyft did in their ride sharing playbook, Lyft and Uber, because what they were able to prove through independent research is when ride sharing apps launched in a market, death by DUIs went down,
Wow.
right? And so they were able to use that as a point in the legislatures to say, hey, this is really needed because you're going to make a positive impact in your community. And so once you get to that point, that's, and I know you're working on
Yeah,
getting
I like that.
grants and all of that jazz to create that model. um, what advice do you have for anybody who, is interested in leveraging some of the cooperative, like what does it take to get a partner like UNLV? That's not an easy feat. Top tier one university. Like, what advice do you have for somebody who's not sure about how to get the right partners on their side?
You got to ask.
Yeah.
I mean, the most they can do is say no. But usually, but if you have something that's very unique, um, um, typically, that's like the best for me in my experience. That's been low hanging fruit. University has been the first place that I go to in any city that I'm in, and I'm looking at these spaces is because there's a piece that's related to anything that you're studying for the most part.
Hmm.
In 2018, I believe I did a study with the Master of Accounting students from UC Dallas,
Oh, dope.
and we did
Awesome.
a feasibility study on setting up a vertical farm in a zoo, and then
Hmm.
set up a vertical farm in an airport,
Hmm.
and what that would look like financially, saying from an economic standpoint, and so we was able to show that, hey, if you were able to do this at a zoo, you basically get a return on your investment in 1.5 years, and then everything after that is now generating more revenue, and then you're offering the animals even healthier products. Same thing when you look at an airport. An airport is trying, there's a lot of different restaurants that are in every single airport, and so you start to think, okay, well, how are they actually getting the produce to the airport? With especially you start to look at Las Vegas, you start to look at all the traffic and everything. How are they moving those things around? And
Yeah.
so a lot of airports are looking at trying to get to net zero. One way of getting to net zero is by starting to grow some of those things on site.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
so there's just a lot of different parallels. But it's really looking at what's that value add that you're kind of bringing, to that institution or to that partner.
Yep. Yep.
Even when you're
Yep.
looking at a grocery store, I mean, you can look at a grocery store and say, hey, I want to sell you this produce. Or you can look at a grocery like, how much is it costing you to sell the produce that you currently have?
Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah,
know, so
exactly.
what are
Because
the
they're buying it, some of it's going bad, and
yeah,
then there's an environmental impact
it's
with
being
the
shipped
travel.
in, it's being stored, you have waste, all of those different things. And if you're able to affect the back end, what you do on the front end is a lot easier.
Yep, yep, absolutely. Oh, boost their profit margins, probably.
Absolutely.
Yep, it's just a learning curve, it sounds like. So, hey,
Yes.
Alaric, what's your vision, man? What's your vision with this?
Um, so a lot of people in this space, want to go very big. Oh, I want to get
Yeah.
100,000 square feet and just build this monstrous vertical farm. Um, but the industry has shown that that is not the way to go. And if
Monstrous vertical farm. So some people have a vision of, I want to have 100 acres in Midwest, but that's not where it's going.
well, yeah, I mean, even here in Las Vegas, you had one of the largest vertical farms in the world at one point in time. Um, that was Oasis Biotech, and they had
Okay.
almost 200,000 square feet vertical farm.
Hmm. But then it doesn't solve the problem of transport and waste, environmental impact,
It creates
power.
more problems. It's duplicating the problem that this space is supposed to help to address, which is big ag.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these companies are creating new big ag.
Mhm,
It's
mhm.
just a more technical big ag. And when you start to add AI in there to big ag, you start to add, RNA, and they doing all type of genetic research, then it kind of gets a little, it starts to get a little freaky.
It's off track. That's not your
Yeah.
vision. You have a different
So
vision.
us is really empowering communities to develop a new food system, taking this way back to early in the days where that's how food was transported and that's how it was exchanged. It was exchanged between individuals and individual towns and then individual cities, but it started as grassroots people growing food and then exchanging that amongst themselves.
Yep.
And so our model is, as opposed to looking at big farms, is that we look kind of using this art of war mentality, where we develop these small micro farms and we scatter them strategically around the valley, close to where the demand is.
Hmm.
So if I'm in a shopping center, most shopping centers always have a space for lease.
Hmm.
And if it's one that has a grocery store like a Smith's or an Albert's or something like that, now you take a small business, you sponsor them, you move them into 2,500 square feet, give them all the equipment, you train them, and now they have a client that's in that same space,
Yep. Literally next door.
literally
That's
next
great.
door.
That's smart.
And they're
That's
going to love that because in there, part of their promotion is we want to source locally.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
even if they're able to put in a small kiosk in that space and say, this is local farms, they're at least showing how they're supporting local farms.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know, that supports the local economy, you know. So by doing that, it's able to make a much bigger impact by scattering all over the place.
Yeah.
So when you
So
start to look at, casinos and hotels and different things like that, you start to look at unused real estate like rooftops and things where now you're kind of thinking outside the box when it comes to moving produce around. You
mhm.
get to that point. And so that's really our goal, is to kind of be like you was talking about. We want to be the Uber of vertical farming.
I love it, dude. And there's a piece of it where it's decentralized,
Absolutely.
big time decentralized, and then Uber vertical farming really means you're empowering a bunch of business owners, right?
Yes.
You're not the big ag guy, but you're empowering a bunch of business owners. Last question, and then we'll move on. But I'm curious, and food for thought on this piece. Like, how much of the blockchain have you looked at for implementing in terms of, creating a decentralized model, a scalable model, um, for your business?
So we've looked at blockchain for traceability, for example, uh,
Yeah,
being able to trace. Typically, right now, when you have different outbreaks and stuff like that, it might take 2 weeks before you'll get a report that's saying, "Oh, no, this happened from this farm in the Midwest" or something like that.
gotcha.
With blockchain technology, you're now able to trace that back in a matter of minutes to find
Yeah,
out exactly where that plant came from, who handled it. So that's the piece that we've been looking at. But we really want to kind of take it to a whole nother level, by introducing both the blockchain piece, the NFT piece, and the metaverse. Because I'm a gamer, and I started seeing vertical farms and vertical towers inside of Modern Warfare games, 10 years ago. you
oh,
know,
dope.
and,
That's
and
cool.
so and I've been kind of following that progress, in the gaming space. There's another game I play and it's all vertical farm is one of the maps in there. And so with something like that, and then you start to look at roadblocks, which is about building little cities and different things like that. I just think that technology is kind of at the point when you start to have AI and different things. This is a way to really put AI to work in a different way that
Yeah,
I don't think people have looked at. So
yeah,
now you can take a community to say like the historic West Side, and you know what the population is over there. And there's a lot of data in regards to the health issues and all those different things. That data is there. So if you was able to take that data and then develop some type of algorithm with a solution piece that says that, hey, if the inhabitants over here built a vertical farm that grew food, and that food was then sold from that community and given to that community, you could actually trace how that community would develop both economically, health wise, and socially over a certain period of time. Same way you do with the old farm game. There
Yeah.
used to be this old game called Farm or something like that, the Farm app, and it was about building
Right.
a farm community. You know, the more you grew, more people came. You had to expand your farm. You know, and I think as opposed to it just being a game, you can really kind of take that model and use it as a framework for helping to develop and helping develop both a community and make it fun and make it educational at the same time, because now you start to look at how do you start to get the next generation of farmers into agriculture, into
Right.
farming in a desert, for example. Very
Mm-hmm.
difficult to do.
Yep. Yep, for sure. Dude, I love it. And I'm sure I could pick your brain on this forever. You've wealth of knowledge when it comes to, um, you called it controlled environment agriculture systems, right?
Yes.
Awesome. First time I heard that. So that's fantastic. Okay. So folks, if you're watching this and you want to pick Alaric's brain on hydroponics, he's a very busy individual. But if you just comment, maybe we'll have some time to jump back in and connect with you over LinkedIn or something like that. But we got to move on from our business lesson. So let's get into our moment of gratitude. What are you feeling grateful for today?
Every day. Um, I'm grateful for my kids and my wife and my children. That I uplifted from I uplifted them from Las Vegas and moved them to Oklahoma, kind of chasing this dream of going out there and doing farming out there and and setting up working in grocery stores, and then uplifted them again and brought them to Las Vegas. So I've only been back out here since October of last year.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
so it's been a challenge, but
Hmm.
I'm extremely blessed and extremely grateful for many of the opportunities. Nevada Partners is probably one of the biggest opportunities that our company as a company we've been able to get. So we have a lot of gratitude from being able to kind of host our business from this space. It's given us the ability to really kind of expand what we've been trying to do, and taking it, things that would have took us 2 or 3 years to do, we've been able to do it in 6 months.
Legendary. That's fantastic, dude. Yeah, it takes a village to raise a baby, and
Absolutely.
the same can apply to a business because a
Yes, sir.
business can be a baby too. So share your gratitude, for Nevada partners in supporting entrepreneurs like us. So for our life lesson, we're going to talk about resilience, and this is an important characteristic, probably one of the most important characteristics for any entrepreneur, right? Whether it's Elon Musk witnessing a rocket blow up, or um, I don't know why that was the first thing that came to mind, uh, or whatever it is. What does that mean to you? What does it mean to you?
Man, you guys, you got to ride it out. I
Yeah,
mean, it's never going to be, success is never easy,
right.
and then it's based on how you measure it,
Hmm.
um, and for me, I measure that every day that I stay with it, you know, that's success. Every day that you do something that's hard, every day you want to, there's other opportunities to give up to do something different. But if what your, kind of what your mission is,
Hmm.
then you're gonna stick with it. And so for me, that's really the art of being resilient, is having enough confidence in yourself to know that no matter what, if you stick with it, you're gonna make it to the end.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I am, a huge believer in the power of resilience. And I don't go to church very often, but I try to go every now and then. And one of the last times I went, left there was a powerful ceremony, and it was faith in action, like not just having faith that things are going to work out, or God's got your back, or whatever it is, but taking the action because you have the faith and you believe that it's going to work. And you're taking
Absolutely.
the action every single day.
Every day.
And I think there was a scripture that they referenced, and it was like Jesus said to somebody, "Don't show me your faith, don't show me your belief, show me your actions, and I'll judge your faith based off of your actions." That really
Absolutely.
hit home for me.
Yeah, that's the heart of it right there. That's the
Hmm.
heart of it right there. Me and my partner, that's kind of how we move, man. We go through stuff and struggle every day with the business, but it's like, you know, you can't stop moving. you know,
Yeah.
you kind of pray on it and move on. You know,
Yep. Yep, for sure. I'm sure you've gone to dark places and positive places, right? Entrepreneurship is a roller coaster for any of us who've done it long enough. what are some pieces of advice or tips that you could share that are good reminders for anybody that's on the roller side of the roller coaster experience, and they
Yeah.
need a little hand on their shoulder. What kind of tips do you have, or something that you remind yourself or you can remind other people on reconnecting to that resilient spirit?
Um, Develop partnerships. If it, you, whatever it is you're doing, there's a quote that in this old African proverb. You can go quick alone, or you can go far
Yeah.
together. And what I've learned is that it takes time. It takes time, it takes patience, but it really takes partners. It really takes developing good relationships, across multiple industries, because you never know who might want to help you. You never know who might be looking for your help. A lot of times we walk past each other, and we don't even know what the other person may have to offer.
Right.
So definitely be very communicative. Um, Work and join these different types of groups and social network groups and things like that, where you're able to develop different relationships and partners with people that you never thought you would normally have access to. So you got to
Hmm.
put yourself out there,
Hmm.
especially if you're a small business, especially if you in that space and you feeling alone and all that. Get out.
Yep.
There's a lot of different networking events around, man. That I was at one here, that I just kind of popped in. It was Toastmasters, but it was about public speaking.
Oh
And
yeah, that was just yesterday.
yeah,
Yeah.
man, I loved it.
Hmm.
And I met different types. I met different people. I got a lot of different feedback. That helped me. I had to help me start thinking about different ways that I might communicate and talk. So get out there, man. It's lonely and trying to do a business and be an entrepreneur on an island.
Absolutely.
Don't
Yep.
isolate yourself. You
Yep.
know,
Yep. Yep.
uh,
For sure.
that's
For
one of the
sure.
48 laws of power. I can't remember which number, but but isolation is death.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so don't isolate yourself. Don't get too down on yourself, and have that faith. And whatever your faith is, have faith in it that what you're doing is the right thing. A lot of times we focus on the money and all that, but what I've also learned is that if you do good deeds will come back. So if you don't
Yep.
have to focus on the money, you focus on doing the right thing.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Yep. 100%, dude. Speaking my language. And for the folks that are watching, uh, we're doing if you're looking for a place where you can connect with other entrepreneurs like Alaric and myself, then we'd love to invite you to come out to the Promise Startups Conference that's happening this Saturday. It's a place to connect with other entrepreneurs. Really created it specifically for that reason. So we're not on an island. We can pour into each other, support one another. And Alaric, if it's okay, can I put you on the spot to talk about this ag coalition that you're putting together that will probably start next month?
Absolutely. So, we just started talking about this. And so this ag coalition is for Southern Nevada. And what we're doing is part of it is looking at all the different people who are into growing, that are into agriculture and where that is and what you're doing, and kind of bringing all of that together. And that what that allows us is to see what's out there. Again, seeing how we can partner, how we can develop these internal relationships to get everything that we want to get to the market. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of the goal of this, is looking at developing a Southern Nevada food industry. We want to create our own industry that's kind of independent of the larger conglomerate industry, where it's a lot more sustainable, it's a lot more in-house, it's a lot more grassroots, and what it does for the most part is basically support and sustain local economics. It taps into all of those different grant opportunities that come out from the USDA. That if we go at those things together,
Whew.
we gonna get it.
Oh man. And
If they
their grants are not small. We're
no,
talking
they're
about
not at
$10
all.
million grants.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people out there that's doing things by themselves in that space. So they might be getting
Yeah.
small pieces of different grants, you know.
Hmm.
But I
Hmm.
think if we come together and we show a united force, when we go up there to them like, hey, look at what we're doing together. Look at what this impact can make for the industry. Because that's
Yeah.
what they're looking to do, is not what an impact it'll make for that small business or that one little business or that one little town, but how can this change the nature of that industry?
Yeah.
How can this grow the industry? You know,
Yeah.
and I think that's where that opportunity is when it comes to working together collectively and everybody kind of seeing what everybody's doing and everybody has a seat at the table, you know, and so and then we share those resources.
Yep. 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 100%. Alaric, I love this. And folks, thank you for tuning in. If you watched live, I appreciate it. Hey, Cyril. Hey, Edith. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching. And feel free to drop in any comments or questions you may have. But Alaric, I want to yield the floor to you. Thank you again for being on this show. How can people connect with you and potentially work with you?
Um, Definitely reach out. We're always here at Nevada Partners. You can reach out on greensideup.farm. All our social media is Greenside Up, LinkedIn, Greenside Up, Instagram, Greenside Up, everything. Um, but really, you know, our thing is about developing, you know, partnerships and relationships where you normally wouldn't think that you need to have one, and then just really kind of open up that conversation. We definitely want to invite everybody out to make sure they definitely come to out to tomorrow to the Promise Neighborhood event. I think it's going to be a phenomenal event that he's able to host here on a monthly basis that gives entrepreneurs a place to go and a place to network on a regular basis. And I think that's really what it's about, is having things that are consistent. And so when it's consistent, people are like, oh yeah, I know I can get there. And then we also want to invite you out. We just have a partnership with First Friday, and we have a new spot out there that would be called Plant Based Plaza. And so we'll be hosting that right in front of the Todd English Hotel and Restaurant. You'll find us there every first Friday now. Come check out. You know, we have these new salads in a cup, and so we're promoting that healthy living and healthy lifestyles. We also have classes here that we teach. So we teach vertical farming and related technologies classes here at Nevada Partners. And we do this. We have 6 week, 12 weeks, 6 week and 12 week courses that you can actually reach out to us and sign up for. So definitely want to push that out there. It's a STEM center, so it's all about teaching the next generation how to be get involved with science, technology, engineering, agriculture, and math.
Booyah. Alaric, this has been fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm glad we were able to do
Absolutely.
this.